I think it's quite likely that Trump will chew them up and spit them out.
Bernie Sanders dishing on Mike Bloomberg on 60 Minutes. Is Bloomberg helping Sanders' path to the nomination? A new push to ban flavored vapes.
Flavors seem to be something that, whether it's traditional tobacco products or vaping products, attract more young people.
Is it the key to getting kids to kick the habit?
Some Vermont lawmakers are pushing to make economic incentive programs more transparent, but opponents say that it could stifle business. I'm Calvin Cutler on the Channel 3 News with that report coming up.
One goal for this class is to keep the marble carving art alive in this area.
See how these students could preserve a Vermont tradition. He's fast and efficient.
I mean, the challenging part is definitely making sure our customers go home with their groceries intact in the way they wanted them.
We're on the clock with Vermont's best bagger ahead of the national championship.
From WCAX Channel 3, the Channel 3 News at 6 starts now.
Good evening. Darren and Celine are off tonight. I'm Roger Garrett.
And I'm Dom Amato. New revelations about Russian meddling in U.S. elections.
The Washington Post is reporting that Bernie Sanders may be getting some help.
According to the Post, federal investigators have informed Sanders that Russia is attempting to interfere with the Democratic primaries, and it wouldn't be the first time.
That's right. Back in 2016, U.S. intelligence agencies found a Russian effort to help boost Sanders' campaign against Hillary Clinton. In a statement, Sanders says he doesn't care who Putin wants for president, but wants him to stay out of American elections.
And the Vermont senator is campaigning in California today, his eye on Super Tuesday.
He's also hoping to add another victory tomorrow in the Nevada caucus and lay claim to the front-runner position.
We are a democracy, one person, one vote, not a guy worth $60 billion buying an election.
That's Bernie Sanders in a 60 Minutes interview airing this Sunday night, talking about Michael Bloomberg's entry into the Democratic field. The New York billionaire, an easy target for Sanders, who has railed against income inequality for decades. But Bloomberg has also taken fire from other Democrats in the field, drawing most of the attacks at Tuesday's debate.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced.
The focus on Bloomberg may be helping Sanders, who is emerging as the leader on the path to the Democratic nomination. So let's look at where Sanders stands in the race right now. He won the popular vote in Iowa and came out essentially tied in the delegate count there. Then he was the winner in the New Hampshire primary. Nevada votes tomorrow, and recent polls show that he has a double-digit lead in that state. Then we go to South Carolina the following weekend, and Sanders is in a dead heat there with Joe Biden. But it's Super Tuesday where Sanders could cement his front-runner status. 14 states hold votes on March 3rd. Now, that includes Vermont, where Sanders is a virtual lock to win. He's also leading the polls in Maine and even in Massachusetts, which is the home state of Elizabeth Warren. Now, Sanders is tied for the lead in both Virginia and North Carolina, and he is a big favorite to win the Utah primary. But the big prizes on Super Tuesday are the delegate-rich states, California and in Texas, and Sanders leads in both of those states as well. Now, the only Super Tuesday states that he is trailing in are Oklahoma and Arkansas, as well as Minnesota, which is Amy Klobuchar's home state. There is no recent polling data available in Colorado, Tennessee, or Alabama.
The fact is, Bernie has had a very different record than me for a long time.
Some pundits suggest the splitting of support between the more moderate candidates, like Biden, Bloomberg, and Buttigieg, could make it impossible for anyone to catch Sanders in the delegate race. And that leaves many Democrats with what has become a central question of the 2020 campaign: electability.
And if we choose a candidate who appeals to a small base like Senator Sanders, it will be a fatal error.
And again, you can hear how Bernie Sanders thinks he can win the nomination and beat Donald Trump Sunday night on 60 Minutes here on Channel 3.
We now go to reporter Bridget Chavez. She covers politics for our sister station in Reno, Nevada.
Bridget, Iowa was a disaster when it came to tabulating and communicating caucus outcomes. How will Nevada be different?
Well, it's a bit more complicated here in the Silver State than it was in Iowa or New Hampshire, and that's because of the early voting aspect here. There was a huge turnout for early caucus voters. We had 75,000 people turn out for early voting this week, and this is the first time it's ever been done in our state. So really at this point, it's a lot of touch and go and wait and see. This is only the third time our state has ever held a caucus as well.
Bridget, tell us about this new app Nevada is using and how the training is going.
Well, they've actually dropped the app that they used back in Iowa. They've traded that out to use iPads. They're calling them caucus calculators. Our chief photographer was at one of the trainings earlier today here in Washoe County. They had 2 trainings, and by the looks of it, he said that everything was going well. But Democrats have also warned us here that they're not guaranteeing we're going to see any results tomorrow night.
Now, Bernie Sanders is ahead in the polls. Why is his message resonating with voters there?
Well, back in 2016, Sanders took the delegate count here during that caucus. So again, it looks like his supporters are coming out in full force for him again this time around. And Nevada's just mirroring what the rest of the nation is seeing at this point. Now, again, the caucuses are unpredictable. It's really hard to see who's going to come out on top tomorrow. So again, it's a lot of wait and see because these caucuses are so unpredictable.
Now, Iowa and New Hampshire are being criticized for being too white to have so much influence in their primary process. About 1/4 of Nevadans are Hispanic. Does that change the conversation when people gather to caucus?
It doesn't really change the conversation much here, but Nevada does pride itself on being a very diverse state, and that's why it is more indicative than Iowa and New Hampshire. So at this point, again, it's really a wait-and-see game. Again, the first time we've ever done early voting here in Nevada, and like we said, Democrats already warning that we might be seeing some problems ahead of tomorrow's caucus.
Bridget Chavez from our affiliate in Reno, thank you very much.
Well, Sharon is busy tonight tracking the temperature so you can take max advantage of your weekend.
Hopefully it will be nothing like what we felt this morning, Sharon.
It is going to be greatly improved over the weekend. Now, we had some brutal temperatures early this morning. These are the lows that we had in some of our bigger towns and cities. Burlington, 4 below, 11 below in Plattsburgh, 16 below in Newport, 21 below in Morrisville. Even in central and southern areas, the temperatures were below 0. We also had some of you report in some of your bitterly cold temperatures in our coldest spots. Island Pond, 32 below, Newark, 29 below, Guildhall, 28 below, Derby 26 below, Corinth 22 below, and 20 below in East Berkshire. So a bitterly cold morning, but our temperatures have already recovered considerably. We have some mid-20s here in the Champlain Valley for high temperatures. Morrisville 27 degrees as well, 29 in Lebanon, 26 in Rutland. So much better, and it's going to be getting even milder over the weekend. Clear skies tonight, but our temperatures are not going to be falling all that much. We'll see those temperatures bottoming out around 20 degrees here in the Champlain Valley, and then tomorrow with a mix of sun, we'll get those temperatures back up into the upper 30s. Now I'll be back with your Max Advantage forecast. Of course, we're going to be taking a much closer look at the weekend weather, but there's a couple of storm systems heading our way for the middle of next week as well. You're going to want to hear about those.
Thank you, Sharon. Lawmakers in Montpelier want to shine the light on economic incentive packages enjoyed by Vermont businesses. Channel 3's Calvin Cutler joins us live in studio tonight. Calvin, why are lawmakers pushing for this change?
Well, Dom, it all has to do with tax incentive transparency. Vermont Economic Growth Incentives, or VEGI awards, are given to companies who expand and add more jobs. At least that's what we're told. Right now, by law, the details of those individual grants are kept for the public. A decade ago, just 7 people worked at New England Chimney Supply in Williston. Neil Hogan is the vice president and says they were given a $50,000 VEGI award from the state. They put that money towards manufacturing equipment and growing their workforce.
Any new business, as you know, there's capital that you have to raise, and the more capital that you can get, the more successful you're going to be. And that $50,000 up front was really an important thing for us.
Using the VEGI grant, leaders here were able to buy this machine. It's called an AccuPress. It's used to shape metal into precise right angles like this piece of metal. Fast forward 10 years, and now 75 people work on the floor and in offices, manufacturing and selling 20,000 parts for chimneys across New England. But under state law, neither New England Chimney Supply nor the state is required to release the details of their Veggie Award. A new bill in Montpelier aims to change that. It requires the state to disclose information about all future Veggie Awards, the amount of money given, and the amount of jobs it creates. Sponsors say it's aimed at pulling back the curtain on how economic incentives are awarded.
Then we can really sort of look across all of the businesses that are receiving awards and understand if that is in fact an effective strategy for bringing up wages for Vermonters.
To qualify for Veggie, companies must promise they couldn't add multiple jobs at once without the state's money. State Auditor Doug Hoffer questions the Veggie program, saying that there's no way to tell if those jobs would have been created otherwise.
Company X comes to VEPSI and says, we want to create 27 new jobs, and if not for this award, we won't be able to do that. That decision by the company to expand was made in the corporate boardroom. I had no access to evidence about that decision-making process within that company.
But others say it's a boon for economic development. Joan Goldstein leads Vermont's Economic Development Department. She says Vermont consistently ranks among the top states when it comes to economic development transparency. She also says keeping the Veggie program is a way of mitigating risk.
The risk of them not doing it is greater to the state because it means we will lose out on that lifetime value of that entity operating and hiring people and continuing to add value to the economy.
But despite the concerns of transparency, Neil Hogan in Williston says the Veggie Award came at just the right time.
It's been a great ride from 2010. We're about ready to hit our 10th year coming up in May, which is pretty spectacular.
And Governor Scott is a big advocate of the Veggie program, and he's asking lawmakers to spend another $3 million on it in the next budget. Reporting live in studio, Calvin Cutler, Channel 3 News.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo wants to put more funding into the fight against teen vaping in the state. Channel 3's Kelly O'Brien joins us live from Plattsburgh. Kelly, what exactly does the governor want to do?
Yeah, Roger. Well, the governor wants to put a ban on flavored nicotine vaping products. The health department says it's because they're eye-catching to kids, but vaping advocates say it's essential when it comes to quitting tobacco.
This is a problem that seems to be rising instead of falling.
New York's Office of Addiction Services and Supports say the numbers show that vaping use is 5 times higher than cigarette use among New York high schoolers. The growing trend of vaping among students is what has New York lawmakers worried.
These are often, and most often, youth who have never used tobacco products before are now using vape products.
A New York State Health Department survey shows that 4 out of every 10 high school seniors report that they've used the products at least once in the last 30 days.
Youth don't always realize how addictive these products can be, nor do they realize how difficult it can be to break that addiction once it's started.
Vaping advocates say it's better that kids are vaping than the alternative.
Teenagers are curious, they're risk takers. You know, the stats are out there that show that if these kids aren't vaping, they're going to be smoking cigarettes.
The governor announced Thursday a new statewide campaign to ban the use of flavored nicotine vaping products and restrict vaping ads aimed at youth.
Cartoon characters, outlawed. Nobody's marketing to the kids. When's the last time you've seen an ad marketing vaping products?
Michael Frenier is president of the New York State Vapors Association. He says he decided to move to vaping from cigarettes years ago.
I used to be a 3 to 5 pack a day chain smoker. I haven't had a cigarette now in 8 years. I quit by vaping.
Frenier says that flavor options are what help adults kick their cigarette habits, and a ban on those products is bogus.
You don't want to vape on something that tastes like an ashtray and reminds you of your cigarettes. Adults like flavors too.
The health department says they want to see people try to quit tobacco, but they don't think that flavors are what's going to do it.
Are considered not necessarily what a person would need if they were using this product as a cessation device.
Now, the governor says the goal behind this ban is to keep kids safe and to prevent them from forming lifelong unhealthy addictions. Also in that legislation is going to be the stopping of selling the products online, over the phone, and through the mail. Live in Plattsburgh tonight, Kelly O'Brien, Channel 3 News.
You can follow what happens next in the vaping debate on the go with the WCAX News app. Download it for free to your phone. Later in sports, the Hoopcats now preparing for postseason play.
The UVM men shore up a slot thanks to a former standout from Rice.
It was definitely like a playoff type of atmosphere for sure. But I mean, those games, being so close and being that competitive, those are the best ones to play in.
Also teaching young artists the skills you need to work with stone.
And Vermont's best bagger knows what the customer wants.
They're not going to be happy when they go home with their eggs on the bottom under a bunch of cans. Enjoy making sure that they go home happy and satisfied.
And he gets ready to prove it in a national competition.
And after that brief cold snap, our weather will be improving for the weekend. And there is some rain and snow on the way for the middle of next week. Your Max Advantage forecast is coming up.